Namaste, I'm Sudarshan. Let me first introduce DFI Delegate Ajay Rao, Regional Managing Director for South Asia for the United States International Development Finance Corporation, DFC. Could you introduce what are DFIs and in particular their interest in Nepal's financial service sector?
Well, I'd start by saying first, development finance institutions are here for the development of Nepal. Our interests are in Nepal's own economic growth. And we also provide funding, whether it be lending or investments, only to the private sector. And so our interests here are to support companies that are investment ready, but those that will actually support the real economy. Whether that be for small and medium enterprises, whether that be for women-owned enterprises, or areas such as agriculture.
As a key DFI investor in Nepal, can you share the evolution of your own investment portfolio that has kind of contributed to Nepal's development agenda?
Sure. So DFC is a U.S. International Development Finance Corporation. We're America's development bank. We provide lending investment to help solve critical issues facing development. When I started 3 years back, we had a $5 million portfolio to one bank in the form of a guarantee. I'm happy to report that now we have a nearly $270 million exposure here in Nepal.
That's in the last 3 years?
In the last 3 years. We're able to increase the size of our investment here. So that has been mostly through financing banks. So let's say our $100 million loan that we have provided to NMB Bank, we specify the use of proceeds. So that typically is SMEs and women borrowers. Lakshmi Bank, we've done a similar $45 million loan, and we specified agriculture as a sector to highlight and help develop Nepal's agricultural sector, as well as a certain amount that would be slated only for women borrowers. And then in addition to that, we provided a guarantee. So this is an unfunded guarantee to enable new products for a new segment that Lakshmi Bank would finance. And so we share in the risk when we provide a guarantee to their new set of products or a new sector.
How do you explain this dramatic increase in the investment? Like, what's leading DFIs to invest in such huge volumes?
Yeah, I think one key area is there is this community has gotten together to work with the banks to specifically work on ESG. The other is the movement amongst the regulatory authorities to make some changes and encourage private sector investment. And I think having this impact investor network also has helped us group together and create an exchange. So we're meeting more of the banks here, we're meeting more of the private sector here, and that having such exchange creates growth in our portfolios.
So you have the Asian Development Bank. They've said that Nepal's SME sector has a funding gap of over $1 billion.
Right.
And what they've also said is that one door of opportunity to fill this gap is DFI investments.
Certainly.
So what's your take as a DFI to fill in that gap, and what has happened in the last 3 years, or what could happen in the coming days?
Yeah, so I think that we find the right banking partners who have clean books, clean financials, that are willing to take on environmental social governance policies, and that are willing to track use of proceeds, and we can finance those SMEs. And throughout Nepal, we can be involved kind of pan-Nepal throughout the provinces. I think those are the areas where we want to provide our financing. And we encourage each other in the financing, but we have to find a willing partner that's able to take down our financing with the specified use of proceeds.
When you say we have to work together, are you talking about the DFI community?
The DFI and the banking partner.
And the bank.
And the borrower, our borrower, which is
Okay.
the banks typically.
What are the key factors that are driving your investments, in particular DFC, like market opportunities or responsiveness of your government to support Nepal's development agenda?
Yeah.
Having Nepalese companies be investment ready to have you as a partner in their growth and development.
Yep, I think we've really seen the Nepal market open up. First, they started with an external commercial borrowing policy and laid down a framework for which the private sector can come in and finance here. So having a clear-cut policy enables us to understand the regulations under which we need to provide our financing. So that really has enabled growth, I think, amongst all of us DFIs. I think also looking at the directed lending, those goals are all our goals, right? To finance the agriculture sector, to finance micro enterprises, to finance SMEs in those areas. Those are our goals as well, is to help development, because that's where the jobs are created. That's where the innovation happens with the SMEs. That's where our financing is key.
DFI investments are inbuilt with the environment, has a social dimension, and governance outcome. So can you decode these three agendas? You touched upon it earlier, but a little bit more in detail on how these three agendas are relevant to Nepalese businesses and the economy as a whole.
So when we provide our financing, we do so in a sustainable way. So sustainability is both, financing that pays us back and is sustainable, but is more sustainable for the country. So when we're financing facilities that they're not harmful to the government or harmful to the beautiful natural landscape that Nepal offers and offers to its tourism as well, that the environment is preserved and that actual companies aren't operating in environmentally sensitive areas. So that's the environment. On the social side, we look at basically human resources and labor rights to ensure that the companies in which the banks invest are providing those kind of world-class labor rights and human rights policies that are involved. And then on the the governance side, it's very important for us that companies have independent board, that they have certain committees involved in their governments. They meet regularly, and that they're able to listen to their independent board members and keep up certain governance. That they operate cleanly and transparently. That's the point of the government's factors.
So how do you oversee the implementation of that commitment that's been made by the company to you?
So monitoring happens in two ways at the DFC. So one is through self-reporting. The client, the borrower, would provide quarterly reports against what's measured, and then typically and then an annual report to their environmental, social, and governance. And then typically we have a team that comes out and that will come on the ground and monitor and stay with the company and understand all of those policies that they subscribed for our loan, that they would implement those policies.
So you do not have a team here per se to oversee the implementation or support the implementation of ESG commitments?
Yeah, we wouldn't need them because it's a private sector company that's running on their own. But we would deploy a team from our headquarters to come here.
I understand that most DFIs or all DFIs don't have a physical presence in Nepal, with the exception of the British International Investment. So how do you kind of access market intelligence, market opportunities, and maybe even to understand the political climate for you to decide in the decision-making process to invest?
That's a great question. So how do we access market information and get in touch with
Because
the
like
private
you said,
sector?
you don't have a presence, the team comes in,
Yeah.
leaves.
So first they have me in the region. I'm based in Mumbai, and I'm kind of the single point of contact for any client or potential borrower. Locally, we operate through the U.S. Embassy as a U.S. government agency, and they provide the market economic background and political background for us to know, and regulatory background as well. And we're lucky to have the Impact Investment Network here, Impact Invest Nepal, which acts as a network for us to give us briefings on the economy and create the opportunity for exchange with the private sector here.
Invest for Impact Nepal, they've been acting as a facilitator between DFIs and the investment ecosystem stakeholders.
Certainly.
Regarding the regulatory changes, you must have known that the Central Bank of Nepal has made changes to its bylaws related to foreign investment and loan repayment, where they have recognized DFIs as a financial institution, as a category of investors.
Okay.
So does that kind of help in giving you a stable place to work in Nepal?
It helps, and it's all a step in the right direction. I think we just need to keep on working on other details, the regulatory policy.
And in the same line, I think it was in October last year, the government signed a memorandum of understanding with 6 DFIs recognizing their role as development facilitators through their investments. When we talk about development finance institution, there's this word called impact, and then there's this thing called transformative investment.
Yes.
Can you just decode this, and how do you measure that?
Yeah, and I think this is the key difference of our financing, that our financing, we have a clear mandate. One is to finance the private sector and for economic growth, and then also to look at development impact. Now, measuring development impact we do on an individual basis, with each borrower. We look and measure specified areas that we can track and monitor, both on paper, through paper reporting, and through visits that happen. So we will identify 3 specific measures in development impact. Let's say for a bank transaction that involves where we said, okay, we'll lend you a certain amount of funding, but the use of proceeds has to go towards agriculture and women-owned enterprises. So we look at the quantum that is actually financed for, let's say, in the agriculture sector. We look at the number of businesses that the bank actually ended up financing, and then or the number of women that have taken on new loans, right? As a result of the DFC's financing. We look at the incremental number of new borrowers, for example.
Regarding the private equity fund sector, it's growing in Nepal. And what's the opinion of DFIs in investing in onshore funds as opposed to offshore funds? Right.
So DFC does, like other DFIs, has several tools. We have guarantees, we have loans, lending. We also have equity. So we have deployed our equity tool, our product here. We've provided equity investment into Dolma, Impact Investment
offshore.
Fund. So on onshore, I think it might be challenging for us as the DFC, but there are probably other DFIs that can take a look at it. So we can lend, but equity would be a challenge to us without a similar framework or policy as there is in the lending environment now.
The DFI landscape, or that space that has been created in Nepal, has come a long way. Would you be in a position to share, as a DFI representative, on what the government could be doing in the coming days to ensure that there's this space, that the expansion of the space for DFI investment, again, particularly probably the financial service sector.
Right. I think one for DFIs is having a point of contact for the DFIs within the Ministry of Finance, for example, I think would help. I think having clear policies as well. I mean, they've had a great start with the lending in here, and in terms of the bylaws and having bylaws for external commercial borrowing. Maybe one or two things need to continue to be tweaked and worked on, but that also needs to exist for equity in order to encourage equity investment. We require a foreign government, what's called an FGA, a foreign government approval, or approval from the government of Nepal for all of our loans. Other countries have made something called an automatic route, especially for investments into financial institutions, that it's a relationship that the banks have with the central bank that they would inform them, and then it's approved. So there's a faster route to approval. So certainly that would help. Certainly on payment of financial advisors, most markets allow payments before to any financial advisors or legal advisors. So there's been some change, but this isn't entirely what we're looking for. So allowing payments for advisors would help enable more finance.
Thanks very much for giving us your time, and we believe, I think there's a better understanding of DFIs, what they are and what they do. Thank you very much.
Yep. Okay. Pleasure to be here. Thank you. Nice to meet you.